What are the main things that you will look into the account?
So if you divide it by a fixed sales velocity of 10, then the stock level that you have predicted is less.
What are the common process that you normally do with that wording?
So that is one core area where the inventory management gets improved a lot by having a system.
What are the short-term plans look like, and what are the long-term plans looks like?
So on that basis, you can make your overall decisions on
What are the challenges that you see between US and Europe?
Ecom Squeezed podcast.
Welcome back to Ecom Squeezed. I am your host Sebastian, founder of Retail-Outsource, and today we have been joined by Haseeb Ahsan, head of supply chain and founder of Brankit, and he worked with fast-growing Amazon brands. Haseeb and his team help e-com sellers kill manual processes, fix messy operations, and turn supply chain from a cost center into a real growth lever. So in this episode, we are going to discuss, how to diagnose the operational health, the biggest mistakes that they see, and the playbook that you use to scale brand. Welcome to the show, Haseeb.
Thank you, Sebastian, for inviting me to the show. And yeah, I'm really excited for the discussion and to talk more on the supply chain and how we operate and automate the overall operations of the businesses. So it will be great, share more details on this, and happy to be here with you.
Great, great. So I want to start with the basic. How do what made you start this business in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. So we started back in 2021, and we started first with seeing this gap in the market where Amazon aggregators were like just coming in the business, and they were acquiring multiple businesses and brands and expanding in a way that where they were creating separate teams. So for example, previously the way e-commerce brands were operating, they were just one founder who was operating the company, and then he was managing most of the stuff, and then he was hiring a VA who would just go in and help him in creating listings or maybe manage some campaigns, but no one was aware about how the supply chain or operation automation works in the business. So when Amazon aggregator space started to evolve a little bit, I had an opportunity to work with a few big names, and that is where we start learning how the departments and the overall structure in the business is created. So like, we started working first with two Amazon aggregators, and that was our start to see how e-commerce overall can be automated and proper departments can be created so that the founders can focus more on growing the business, and we can, at the back end support the operations and automate the overall supply chain of the business. So that is where we saw the gap, and then we started offering these services to other e-commerce companies that were growing with the time, and that was, kind of a start of the journey.
Great, 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 great. And let's talk about an example. So let's say a new Amazon brand. When I say new, they are selling on Amazon for maybe 6 months, and they have enough turnover in terms of sales. Let's say 1 million in the last 6 months, and they came to you, for operational efficiency and the supply chain side efficiency. What are the main things that you will look into the account as a top level KPI, for example?
Yeah, so Sebastian, usually when we talk about the supply chain part of the business, it starts to affect and makes more sense when you have at least like 1 year history of the business. So
Sure.
that is where you are at a level where let's say you will have around 10 plus SKUs and you will have like let's say 500K plus in revenue. So that is where you are struggling between what kind of visibility I need on my inventories. So you will have multiple products, multiple purchase orders, and then you will have stocks across let's say two or three 3PLs and also in Amazon. That is where the things starts getting complex, and at that point as a founder you are struggling between multiple things. So you are on one side you are adding new products and talking with the suppliers, managing that stuff. On the other hand, you are then placing the POs, pushing the marketing and managing the overall stuff together. So when we come in and when we start analyzing the business, we see that how we can take our most of the operational part where we can see like what kind of stock you have, what is your business cash flow, and what is your supply chain profitability. So that is where we start, and the core issue that we see in the businesses when they are let's say at a 1 year mark they have a lot of excess stock where the cash is stuck, and their top sellers are getting out of stock. So that is the most common issue that we see. So from there we start, and we first create a process around inventory management to make sure we have a good visibility on where our stock is for each product. So we start with categorizing the whole portfolio of the business into A, B, C categories, where A are the products that are like our top sellers and constitutes our 80% of the revenue, and C categories are the products that are on the lower end. So on A category products, we will then go in and make sure that we have enough safety stock, and we make sure that they remain in stock at all times, because the cash is converted easily for those products into revenue. And on the other hand, most of the times the new launches or the new products that are in the C category, which are not that much into your constituting towards your revenue, we will go there and make sure we become efficient in the stock in that area, and automate and remove the cash from those products and improve the overall business profitability. So this is how we start, and then we dig deeper into how we can create more processes that can automate the supply chain of the business.
Great, Haseeb. And I have checked your LinkedIn, and you mentioned about killing manual processes. So could you give us an example of how do you do that? Basically, what are the common processes that you normally do with that wording?
Yeah, I think this is again a really great question. So when we talk about manual versus automation, so when it comes to inventory management, for example, most of the sellers, they will use an Excel sheet to manage their stocks, let's say across 100 products, and they will use a common sales velocity to calculate their days of inventory, what is available to them. Like, it is a stagnant data. So let's say they will say you have 1,000 units in FBA, and they will use Excel to calculate a velocity of, for example, their last 30-day sale were, for example, 10 units per day. So they will simply divide that 1,000 by 10, and that will be their days on hand, which means the stock that is available to sell. In actual, the way it is working is, let's say you are coming into the Q4 and your sales velocity is increasing. So if you divide it by a fixed sales velocity of 10, then the stock level that you have predicted is less. So the way when we onboard the systems and tools that actually looks at all your products, and they assign a variable sales velocity and forecast, which gives you a right idea of what kind of stock you actually have, and then it is automated in a way that that data is directly connected with Amazon or Shopify or Walmart or whatever channel you are selling on, and in that way it becomes variable with the changes that we see in the market. So most of the sellers that use Google Sheets or Excel, they are manually updating each and everything, and the data is also not making sense in terms of supply chain. But when we talk about automation and getting in a tool that is connected with your sales channels, pulling all the data in, and we just need to give it the right forecast, which needs a very little input from the founder to update the stock, update the deals and plans that they have for the particular products. That is the only input that we need for that. Other than that, most of the stuff that sellers are doing in the Excel sheet, that gets automated a lot. So that is one core area where the inventory management gets improved a lot by having a system that can help you predict your out of stock, your excess stocks, and give you the right forecast and right understanding of what you have on hand. So on that basis, you can make your overall decisions on how you can scale certain products or reduce down sales on something that is going out of stock. So that is one way of, introducing automation into the businesses. There are like several other areas that we cover in the operations to automate it.
Great, Haseeb. I agree with you on the stock side. This is kind of the number one rule of Amazon: never go out of stock, in stock all the time. So my next question is,
Yeah.
when you onboard a client, you have to plan it, right? So maybe for the next 3 months, you have to do that's like a short term, and maybe for the next 6 to 12 months or 24 months, you have to make some planning. So how do you structure those plans? What are the short term plans look like, and what are the long term plans looks like?
Yeah, great. Again, this is an amazing question because uh, over the last, in start, we were also struggling with this thing where when we were onboarding a brand, we were not clear on how we can set up each and everything and what will make more sense to a seller and how we can, show the quick wins in the business and then plan the things long terms. So over the last 2 years, we have this very detailed structured process that goes over the first 4 weeks where we take over the complete supply chain of the brand. And we start like in the first week, we have a process where we take in all the inputs from the brand owner to understand their inventories, where they are, in which 3PL, where are the orders overall, if they are not using any system. So in the first week, we takes all those inputs and then we have two calls with the client and maybe their team, their supply chain team, or whoever is managing the supply chain, and we understand how their supply chain is operating. So once we have these calls in the first weeks and the structured data system that we provide to them, we understand their supply chain completely end to end. And over the next 3 weeks, it goes on by structuring the processes. So we first start with creating the process. For example, as an Amazon seller, it is very important to have the replenishment process. So we start our second week by having the proper replenishment process so that we make sure in this transition period, as we are as agencies coming in and their team is pulling back from that area, we make sure that the Amazon replenishments are not affected. So we first start creating a process on the replenishments. In the second phase, then we go towards the forecasting. So that is where we need slight inputs from the seller to make sure we analyze the products correctly, understand the past trends. For example, if something is running out of stock in past, we need to understand and accommodate for that in the future forecast to make sure we have the reliable data and reliable forecast that is like 70 to 80% accurate, and it gives us the right demand plan for the next quarters. So we will start with getting the right data, then we will create the replenishment process, then we go towards the SKU level forecasting, then we go towards the demand planning where we let them know like this is your current stock level for each product and this is something that you need to order for the next quarter. So usually we plan according to the quarters and we place small orders to make sure our cash is efficient, because in that way we run the demand plan continuously in a bi-weekly way, and that helps us in giving us like small orders and good cash control of the business. So demand planning, once the demand planning is done, then we move towards, in the third and fourth week, we move towards how we can improve the business profitability. So there we find the quick wins. For example, one of the best quick win that we actually see for most of the businesses is in freight cost. So we have 4 to 5 freight companies that we are working with over the last 3 years, and we help them to, for example, if they have a new PO that is coming in, we will take the quotes from their forwarder as well as our forwarders, and each forwarder has a different relation with each shipping lane. So whatever forwarder can provide us with a good shipping cost and a good timeline, we will go with that. And that directly adds up to like 5 to 10% saving in your freight cost. So that is like a direct win in the third week that we provide to the client. And in that way, we see like what kind of cost can be improved, maybe in 3PL, maybe in shipping, or maybe like looking for a new supplier. So we create a timeline of that in the third week. In the fourth week, we create a process on how we can create a recurring reporting structure while maintaining all these previous processes that we earlier created. So we create a detailed KPI dashboard, which includes all the important supply chain KPIs. That includes like inventory, turnover, out of stock, excess situations, and a detailed overview of your shipments and orders. And we create that final dashboard and structure a weekly call with the client to help them understand how their supply chain is operating, and then also take their inputs in a weekly way to make sure we have this structure repeated each week in a detailed way to make sure we take things forward. So again, my answer was quite long, but this is like a 4 week process, 4 week process that we have to get the client onboarded and create all our systems, and then it is managed on a recurring basis each week.
That's a very detailed answer, Asif. Thank you. And you mentioned that you will kind of mix a lot of small orders initially. So when you say small orders, is that like in a pallet, or is that in a box, or is that in a 20-foot container? Could you define that?
Yeah, again, by small order, what I actually mean is, for example, it will vary by each product and the lead time of the product. So let's say we have a brand and there are some products, 10 products are running out of stock and at a lower inventory. So we will create a structure that we call an order up to level model. and it helps us to take the stock up to certain level, and whenever a stock gets below a certain level, we will place a purchase order. So for example, there is a product with, let's say it has a 100 days of lead time coming from China, and we try to keep 30 to 40 days of safety stock in our 3PL and Amazon. That brings up to, like, we also add some other variables which includes unexpected delays and the time that is spent in PO communications and in that area. So it comes around, for example, let's say 150 days of stock. So we will run the order up to level model whenever the stock gets below 150 in the whole supply chain, from the production to the final Amazon stock that we have. So the whole supply chain stock days on hand, and whenever something is, let's say, getting below 140 days, 150 days on hand, we will place a purchase order of that up to 170 or 180 days of hand. So like we are placing an order for 30 days of stock, and it means whatever sales velocity the product has as per our forecast that we have created, we will place an order of 30 days whenever something gets below 150. So this is how we structure it. And in the first phase there might be some big orders to make sure we cover our safety stock and lead times properly. But when this demand planning is repeated bi-weekly in the next phase, we will have very small orders as per each product and MOQ, and that will make the overall process quite efficient and less cash flow burden on your business.
Great, 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 Haseeb. And Haseeb, you have helped a lot of sellers right across in the US and I assume in the Europe as well. So I want to ask, what are the challenges that you see between US and Europe, and what are the lead times normally from China?
Yeah, so I think as compared to US and EU, I don't see a lot of challenges here. The only thing is in EU, you have to consider the stock across all the Europe, and most of the sellers, the way they are managing Europe is we have Germany as the biggest market, and when you have, let's say, for example, you are selling on Amazon or Shopify, you can have a 3PL or Amazon warehouse in the Germany, and that helps us fulfill across all the Europe quite easily. And also importing the stock into Germany is easy as compared to the other European countries and takes less time. So we have two kinds of shipments that are coming to Europe. So one is through train and one is through sea. In sea, we have two options where we have a fast shipping option and a slow shipping option. So fast shipping usually takes around 12 to 15 days in sea transit time. And then we have the slow moving ship, which is more cost efficient. It takes around 25 days to deliver to the Europe. With train, sometimes we see like we can have around 12 to 15 days of transit time for the train as well. That is more on the higher cost side, but when we need something urgent, we can get through that as well. So these three modes usually we use across Europe and US. In US, we don't have the train option, but we have the sea option only, and the lead times are usually the same. But in US, like, it is more easy to manage because the rates, and we have more forwarders for the US as compared to the Europe and UK side. And in US, what we also do is we use Amazon warehouse distribution. That is something that has improved the business a lot. And
You mentioned about the train, right, for the Europe side. Um, means
yeah,
what are the
before that,
benefits
I was mentioning about something important. I think I paused in between.
US?
We have in US, we have Amazon warehouse distribution, and that is something that is really helpful these days to the sellers that can move the inventory quickly. So with Amazon warehouse distribution, it is quite easy to manage the automation in the Amazon FBA shipments, because once you send the shipments to AWD, it can automatically fulfill to the Amazon FBA warehouse, and you don't have to create the shipments. So it saves a lot of workload in that way. And also storing the storage cost of Amazon AWD is quite better than having stock in FBA. So that is something that is more helpful. And with a new seller, we mostly recommend to use AWD instead of having a 3PL that is outside of Amazon.
Okay, that's great. And I want to ask you about the train to Europe. How good is it? And you mentioned 12 to 15 days, right? And if you want to orders to be delivered to Germany, is that directly coming to Germany, or is there different stops on different countries? Could you give us more details on that?
Yeah, so it definitely has different stops that comes from for the train. So it is a blend of train and truck journey. and it starts from China, and I think it goes through the Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan region, and from there it connects with Europe at the end. So I'm not exactly sure about how what kind of map they are following right now, but it is a journey combined of train and truck together. And our freight partners, they know the more details on this, how it is covered, but usually we book the DDP shipments with them, so it saves us a lot of effort in terms of the custom clearance and the time, so we don't have to involve ourselves in that, like how each and everything is managed, but we pay like the one-time cost for their DDP service, and they deliver the product directly to our warehouse.
Great, great, great. And if an Amazon brand is doing, let's say, 3 million a year and wants to
Mhm.
grow operationally, what are the first systems or process that you insist to personalize, for example?
Yeah, so as you talked about this earlier, I think the very first thing that I would recommend to an Amazon seller is to have an inventory management system.
Yeah,
So if you are crossing a 1 million mark, I think you can afford an inventory management system that will usually comes around $200 to $300 and go above that based on your order volume and your SKU count. So you can start with that area. And the way we actually provide this is like we have our own system as well. So whenever an Amazon seller is coming to us, we offer them like both options. So you have an option one where you can have our own system, inventory management system, and you can have that with our services where we onboard and integrate and takes complete control of your supply chain through that. Or we have another option where we use the sheets to manage the process if you are not inclined towards spending more on the package which includes the inventory management system. But if most of the sellers that are coming with above 1 million revenue, they usually opt for getting an inventory management system, and that overall improves a lot as compared to your old business way of managing everything through sheets. So that will be the first thing that I will recommend any Amazon seller that is going above 1 million.
great, 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 Hasib. And Hasib, I assume your team have, a team of analysts and supply chain managers and some developers, right? So it's a mix of a different expert working together to make a final goal. So how do you make sure that they all work together to achieve a certain goal, for example?
Yeah, I think that is a very amazing question. So I will explain about our team structure. So we have a team of 12 people that is sitting in one office at all times. So we have a very good collaboration across everyone. And the way the things are taking place is we have at the top level, I have a chief of operations who is actually involved in developing and creating these processes and making sure that each client's deliverables are delivered. Down the line, we have a supply chain manager that is added to like three clients and they support the supply chain specialist that is specifically assigned to each client. So in this way, we manage all the structure. And on the data analytics part, we have trained our supply chain specialists in a way that they can run and integrate APIs and softwares. And we have a detailed, when we onboard any new talent, we have a 5 week training program through which we take them, and if they have like certain level of skills, we uplift them with data analysis and skills where they can come in and run and integrate the solutions. So we don't have any special developers to like make things for us, but we train our supply chain managers in a way that they can run the supply chain processes, manage procurement, inventory, supplier relations. At the same time, they have this capability of doing the data analytics part and integrating the tools and seeing how things can be automated. So this is our way of managing and helping the clients with the supply chain solutions and our team structure.
Great, Hasib. And Hasib, you at the starting you mentioned about cash flow, right? So let's assume a fast-growing Amazon brand, and they might have cash flow down the line. So what are the early signals that you will look into in order to cash that early?
Yeah, so when we like, to me, the main concern when I see a business is the founder will come in and they will say that this is the product that we are trying to push, and we are expecting a 30% or 40% sales growth in the next year. The thing is, as a seller, you are more optimistic about your brand, so you're not seeing the downside of that. So whenever someone is coming to me on in this way, we will try to analyze the past sales trends and we show them the numbers that the thing that you are saying right now will not be more efficient for your business in terms of cash. So what we do in that way is in the first phase, we try to create a process that integrates with your marketing team and point out all the excess SKUs. So if there is something that is going above a certain threshold of days on hand based on your lead time and safety stock, we will point them out and tell their marketing team to plan something about this. We will suggest them the target prices and deals also that make sense in terms of profitability or maybe break even for some products. And we will suggest this plan to them to make sure they get rid of that stock. That will be our first step. In the second phase, we improve the forecasting. So if a seller is saying we are applying a 30 or 40% growth, we try to make it realistic to make sure we cater this issue down the line so that you don't suffer with that issue again. So we are already fixing the existing issue with our initial process that I shared, and then we make sure we have the right forecast and realistic numbers to make sure we don't run in the same situation again.
Great, great. That's a really great answer, Haseeb. And uh, AI is changing, right? A lot of business are introducing AI to smooth out the processes. So, on your side, what are the AI systems that you use currently, and what it solves?
Yeah, so AI, we are using AI a lot in our operations, especially in the forecasting domain. So currently we are testing one tool that is offering us a lot of models that we run on each product to make sure we forecast it correctly. So for example, there are different kind of products with different kind of seasonalities. So each product will have a different kind of AI based model that can work for it. So currently we are testing the tool that has around 10 plus AI models integrated into it, and then it will suggest on each product level based on its past history what kind of AI model will make more sense for it. So there is a deep machine learning behind that, and all these models that are created will run through each product, and then the software itself will suggest this is the best model that fits on this product. At the same time, we have this flexibility to change those AI models as well to generate our forecast. So this is something that is currently in development, and also we are testing it on one account. But this will improve the forecasting accuracy a lot. And as far as I have seen on some accounts on which it is already applied in partner agencies, they are seeing around 80% forecast accuracy of the businesses. So we are using the AI and it is currently helping us a lot in forecasting area, and in demand planning we are also trying to integrate it so that through the forecasts that are generated through AI we can have these results in a better way. And also I have seen another cool thing in an inventory management system. We have a chatbot that, for example, you are searching for a product where you need to find something which is running out of stock or which is in excess. So in the chatbot, you just have to come in and type about the product. So if someone is not aware about the dashboard or the platform on how it is operating or where the options are, you just have to come in and type your question in the chatbot and it will give you all the details of the products, where what is the stock level, how many inventory you have in Amazon, and in how many days it will run out of stock. So a chatbot that is applied on the system will give you all the results.
Great, great. And in terms of forecasting for an Amazon seller, do you normally look into downloading some reports from Amazon, or do you look outside of Amazon? Let's say Google or any other influencer trending terms. So how do you do that?
So we use two things here. The first thing is obviously to get the past sales data, we have to get the Amazon reports. So if you have a manual process, we take the Amazon reports and update that in our Google Sheets. We just have to paste it there. If you have a system, inventory management system, it automatically connects with Amazon and Shopify, so it can get the data directly. We have also created an integration between Shopify and Google Sheets. So through Shopify APIs, we can get the data directly in the Google Sheets. When it comes to using something that is outside of Amazon itself, we use Helium 10 to and mainly Helium 10 to see the keyword trends, mainly for the new products, to take and see how the products are performing, how the keywords are performing, and on that basis, and a little past history that we have for the particular product, we use that data to make a future forecast. So that is the only data point that we are using right now. But Helium 10 keywords and sales rank data is really helpful to create forecasts for the new products. And outside of Amazon, that is something that is reliable as compared to the other sources.
Great. And Hasib, you at the starting also mentioned about the reporting side. So for a client, do you offer like a custom dashboard with reporting and the communication side, or do you do it in a different way?
So there are two different questions, I guess. So one thing is on the dashboard related to the supply chain, and one thing is communication. So on the supply chain side, we have created dashboards that make sense for your business in terms of the area that we are looking at. So we have dashboards to see your overall supply chain, and which includes all the important KPIs like inventory turnover, the on-time order rate, the shipment delivery rate, and supplier performance KPIs. So this is like a standard dashboard that applies to all the businesses. Then we tailor some dashboards based on specific client needs. So there is one client that wants a dashboard to see how the business cash flow is. So we have a cash flow dashboard that defines what kind of inflows are coming monthly down the line in your business and what is going in the outflow. So based on that, we create a whole cash flow forecast for the business. We also use a tool for that, but if there is someone who can use our sheets, they opt for that option. We also have softwares like Agicap that provides the similar solution, and it gets directly connected with again the sales channels and with your bank accounts to take the live feed of data and update the cash flow forecast. So again, this is something, we can tailor it as per the client needs, and then we have one standard dashboard that we usually provide to most of our clients. On the communication part, we are using two ways to communicate with the clients and their teams. So we have ClickUp where we manage all the projects and assign tasks, or client can assign tasks to us and keep the track of all the progress on the projects that are running. And we have Slack, so we use Slack for communications across all the teams, and in each group we have at least one supply chain manager and at least two supply chain specialists and me and chief of operations already added. So we have at least four members from our side that are added into, sorry, five members from our side that are added there to make sure we keep a good eye on each of our client and prioritize the communication. So we work like as an internal team member of the client and communicate with them on the daily basis to make sure the supply chain is running, because supply chain is not like marketing. You can set a campaign and set it running. It is something that requires a daily management, so you have to be present there to make sure you make the right processes and keep them running.
So my last question will be, Hasib, for a brand which is established and they have an internal team for the the supply chain and everything, what will be your advice? If a specialist agency like yourself will step in, what are the improvement that you normally see compared to an internal team?
Yeah, so with internal team, I think in supply chain area, the biggest issue that you usually face is, first thing is you have to have the deep understanding of how the trends are changing in the supply chain. So when you are working across multiple clients and multiple companies and multiple vendors like 3PLs, forwarders, so you have this grip of how the market is changing and how each company is evolving to that. So when you have the broad overview of each and everything, you can bring those inputs to your client and help them improve, as compared to a supply chain manager that is just sitting there in your company and with a limited scope of knowledge, it is very hard to predict the right direction in the supply chain. Another important thing is, as an internal team member, let's say one person is managing your supply chain, and let's say he goes on a holiday for a week. Supply chain suffers a lot. It is not like marketing. You can just leave the campaigns and it will generate the results. So in one week you will have a lot of supplier communications, a lot of PPL backlogs, and freight orders that are coming in. So you have to be on top of each and everything at all times. So with an agency, it becomes really flexible because as I just mentioned, we have four team members that are added to a particular client group. So it becomes really easy to keep a visibility and keep the things running even if someone is out of office. So that is kind of a bigger win that we see in terms of technicality and the overall learning of the supply chain. We have experienced this stuff over the last 4 years while working with like big companies to small companies. So that exposure is usually missing in the supply chain managers. Of course, there will be like people that have that exposure, but the main thing is to stay on top of each and everything at all times. And as an agency, it becomes really efficient and also cost effective in that way.
Great. And Haseeb, thanks a lot for coming down and giving all those valuable insight. And for the viewers, where can they find you and your company?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website also at brankit.com. So it is brankit.com. You can find us there, and you can come in and just book a call to maybe just understand our service, or if you have any kind of issues that you are facing in your supply chain and operations overall, we can talk on that. So it is all free. You can come in and book a time with me. I'm totally open to that. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. Maybe you can mention that in the details as well. So Haseeb Ahsan is my name, and you can find me on the LinkedIn. And yeah, we can communicate there as well. But I think website will be a good option.
Great. So what I will do, I will put the LinkedIn profile down in the show notes and the website link as well. So please do check it out. And it's a free call. So most likely, I will say most of the business, if they don't have an external agency, they will save a lot, right? If you have a specialist agency, and in terms of keeping the items in stock, and also the efficiency of the all the transport as well. Once again, thanks a lot, Haseeb, for coming down and sharing all those information. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian, for giving me this platform to share and talk more on the stuff that usually is not shared and not talked about, because supply chain is something where people are just leaving it on the side and they are mostly focusing on the marketing stuff because it is fancy. So most of the people will talk about that, but a supply chain is something that is like core of the business, and it covers 60 to 70% of your backend. So thank you for giving me this platform, and it was really nice to talk with you.
I should talk with you, Haseeb. So we'll catch you up later at some point. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate.
Thank you, and yeah.